And it's Thursday, March 5th, 2026, and this is season 5, episode 8 of Two Guys on Politics, which is broadcast on YouTube on our twoguyesonpolitics.com YouTube channel and on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 radio in Michigan. It actually can be picked up in Michigan, Ohio, and that region. It's a pretty big broadcast. I'm Ray Hanania with my co-host, former Congressman Bill Lipinski, and in today's Two Guys on Politics video podcast, we're going to discuss a range of topics. Obviously, the big one is Trump's war on Iran. Why the war? Is it politics or is it a real threat? We're going to look at some of the polling, and we're going to talk about some of the consequences of what's been happening over there. We're also going to look at this. It looks like a problem. I don't know if it's being solved or finally being addressed, but a lot of Americans who are stuck overseas are worried about their safety and they want to come home, but the U.S. government has sent out notices online and in response to people that they can't do anything to help them. That's if you want, or you can take a bus and you can go to the border with Egypt, but you got to take care of yourself. Then we're going to look at the midterm elections this week. There were some elections that have just started, the beginning, and it has an interesting pattern that's taking place. And if we have time, we're going to look at some of the elections coming up in Illinois on March 17th. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be right back to begin the program. I'm Ray Hanania.
And I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics. And the next voice you hear will be one of the greatest experts on the Mid-East, Mr. Ray Hanania.
Anything going on this week at all that I missed, Bill? It's been a real quiet week, hasn't it? Anything major?
Well, the United States of America has struck another blow for freedom, democracy, capitalism in the Middle East by attacking that horrible nation, which I'm sure you agree with, Iran, in trying to bring democracy and peace to the Middle East.
Let's dissect that sentence that you just made, that they struck a blow. Was it against democracy or was it against Iran? I was quite unsure about what was going on there.
It was for democracy. We always move for democracy, freedom, capitalism. Yes, that's what we move for. We've been trying to spread that throughout the world since, probably 1890.
Some of us have been trying to spread it around the world.
Cuba and the Philippines from those terrible Spanish conquerors.
Some of us have been trying to spread that democracy around the world, but I certainly don't think it's our current administration or current president. I'm not even sure if he has made America the priority. His priority is Donald J. Trump. That's priority number one. Priority number two is anybody that has money that's willing to work with him and give him money or allow him to expand his personal assets and buildings. That's number two. And then any of his political people who are MAGA, and maggots or MAGA. I don't know which it is, maggots or MAGA. I can't tell. And then if there's room left to think about what's going on for the rest of us Americans, he occasionally thinks about us, but not as seriously as he should. So this is a complicated thing, Bill. This war in Iran, I have mixed feelings about it. Obviously, I think Iran is a bad country and the Ayatollah is a bad person. What I don't accept, though, is this allegation that somehow they were threatening us, that they were going to attack us. I don't believe that. I do believe that Iran and Israel have had a problem for 40 years since the Ayatollah took over, I guess in 1979 or 1980, whenever it was. And they have a problem. And I think Netanyahu got Trump, not just to give him money and assets and war equipment, but to actually use our soldiers to actually launch this war against Iran. First of all, Bill, do you think this is a war, or do you agree with some of the Trump people that say that no, it's not a war, it's just an action? How do you view this?
I think using the word war is semantics. It's a war.
Yeah,
Okay. Anytime you have your citizens in the military in harm's way because of another country or because of an endeavor they're involved in, it's a war. Now, setting how I feel about Donald Trump to the side, uh, I want to say
what's left to talk about? What's left to talk about?
well, I just want to set him to the side. I don't want to talk about him. Uh, as far as the situation that we find ourselves in, the way I believe it happened, and I agree with you, there's been many different stories coming out of the administration, how we
Yeah,
got to the point that we're at.
right,
I believe that Bibi Netanyahu and his intelligence organization found out that the Ayatollah and 40 of his top supporters, workers, leaders are going to be above ground Saturday morning, and it's an opportunity to strike against them all.
right,
He gave that information to President Trump. President Trump asked the CIA to investigate it, to say yes or no. The CIA came back and said, yes, they're all going to be above ground. It will be an excellent opportunity to strike them. I think that Trump did the right thing by striking, killing the Ayatollah, killing 40 of his top leaders. Now, unfortunately, by doing it that quickly, he alienated many people in the House, many people in the Senate, many people in the country, because he did not live up to the War Powers Act, where if you're going to go to war, you should get the permission, the okay from Congress. He didn't do that. But there's been no president that has done that, quite frankly, since Franklin Delano Roosevelt when we went to war in the Second World War. Okay, so I set that aside. But I believe that's why he acted. It unfortunately stranded a lot of Americans in the Middle East. I hear it's over 1 million Americans were stranded in that part of the world. Now, I want to ask you, you're going to answer me now or later on,
sure.
what's 1 million Americans doing over there at the present time? Well, we have this tremendous military buildup, okay? I mean, we got aircraft carriers over there. We got bombers over there. We got troops over there. Obviously, Trump wanted to do something militarily unless he could get the perfect deal from Iran. And no one
Right.
thought he was going to get the perfect deal from Iran. I think that he would have attacked in another couple of weeks, but he had this opportunity to move to kill so many of the leadership of that country. And I'll tell you, I'm sure you agree with me, they all deserve to die. The things they've done to their own people and the things they've done to other people around the world. So I have no problem with what he did. It does create problems. Once again, the Trump people just do not seem to have any kind of understanding, any kind of sensitivity to how they do things. Okay? I mean, the same thing with ICE. When ICE first started operating, 80% of Americans were for what they were doing. But because of the way they did it, now it's down to 20%. You might have some facts and figures on how many Americans support what we're doing over there in Iran at the present time. But based upon people I've talked to, just, in my neighborhood, there's very little support for this war.
Yeah, I think the polling, one of the things we'll talk about, we'll get into deeper is the polling, but I just want to go back to this idea that I think you're right. The conflict started when Israel presented that information to Trump, and I think convinced Trump you got to go take them out. But I'm just wondering, Bill, why didn't we go take out Putin in Russia? Why didn't we do the same thing with him? There's a war going on that's going to destroy the NATO and the West if it expands in all these countries that are so important to us. But we have a humanity that says we don't just attack and destroy people when we feel it's convenient. We try to follow the rule of law. We try to make a case. Trump never made a case against Iran. We do know that they've been behind allegations of terrorism that have taken place years ago, and they are fighting with Israel. And that's where I think the big factor is. This is about Netanyahu having some type of Houdini control over Trump and his future. And he thinks that somehow this is going to make his career stronger by doing this. I think it's just working out the opposite. You can't, as bad as why don't we go take out North Korea? Why stop at Venezuela, Iran? Why don't we take out every bad country? Let's take out China. Can you imagine if we were really going to do some good? Why don't we blow up the Chinese leadership and the Russian leadership? Wouldn't that make this world far more safer? The problem is, even a government like Trump, who hides, and I believe it is about Trump. It's not about the United States. He has hijacked the United States. I love the United States, and we both do, and I understand that. But I don't love Trump, and I believe he's hijacked this country to use for his own benefit, and his decisions are not driven by what's best for the United States or the American people. They're driven by what's best for him. So, should we have attacked Iran? I don't believe it was the appropriate time. There are other priorities.
When would the appropriate time been, Ray?
Well, to continue negotiations the way they have over the years. We did attack them last June. Do you remember when Trump had that big press conference and he announced we obliterated? He didn't just say we damaged. He said, without even a hesitation, we obliterated their ability to make nuclear weapons. It was the greatest attack ever. Our bombs and the American soldiers, we didn't lose one American. We did blah, 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 blah.
He
And
does
here
have
we
a
are
tendency,
7 months later. He does it again. What is this?
he has a tendency to exaggerate things. You know that as well as I do. Okay.
Yes.
We should have learned to live with him on those kind of things. Not that I agree with it, not that I think it's right, but that's how he is. We have to put up with it. He was elected. He's going to be there another 3 years. Just a second. Many of the things that you just talked about, I have no argument with. I understand it. I think that you are probably correct. There are some things that you have said, well, maybe I disagree with slightly. But
Yeah,
we're pretty much on the same wavelength, other than this. I feel this was a perfect time to go after Iran. Okay. I'm glad that we did it. My only real concern is that, like past administrations, when we're involved in the Middle East like that, we hit them hard. But as time goes by, we lose more and more and more interest. And we finally say, out of heck with it. We did all we could do. We're leaving. That'll be a tragedy if it happens in this situation. I want to see the Trump administration, the United States of America, see this through to where some people are wind up being in power in Iran that will be, first of all, good for the Iranian people and not threaten the rest of mankind with atomic weapons or missiles or drones or anything like that. Anything short of that, I think it will have been a big mistake for us to move. And that Israel and the United States are very close. They've been very close for many, many years. It does seem like Bibi has a lot of influence on Trump. But in this situation, if I had been the president and Bibi came to me with that information and my CIA, confirmed it, I would have had no hesitation whatsoever but to go and try to get them all.
The only problem I have with what you said was that many times in the past, Trump has lied and exaggerated. And for some reason now, though, you're willing to believe him. That's where I have a problem. And I'm not criticizing you, Bill, because I understand what this is about. I don't trust Donald Trump. I don't believe what he says. He may say whatever he wants to direct these people to go to war. And for God's sake, I hate to see any of our soldiers put in any harm's way. We lost 6 of them so far, and I'm worried we're going to lose more. I don't believe him. I think he's a liar. I think that he is lying to us about the reasons for the war. I think it's hubris, it's ego. Maybe his ego was hurt because the Iranians didn't negotiate the way they wanted him. He wanted them to negotiate. He is the problem. And I think that this war, unlike what you believe, I think this is going to be a long, protracted war that's going to turn into some street fighting in Iran. And we're going to have to send troops in, or we're going to end up taking our money from our taxpayers to fund a group of people to fight the people in Iran. And I think that's going to go on for years. That's what I fear. The way it is in Iraq today, remember the country we freed after September 11th? Didn't happen.
No, well, I voted against that war. I want everybody to know. I was not
Yes.
that. I thought
Yep.
it was a mistake. But if I was in Congress today, I would vote for this. Iran, the leadership there has been harassing us for 35,
Yes.
40 years. They've been funding terrorist organizations all over the world for years and years. They were evil personified. I want to see them gotten rid of. I don't care why Trump did it. It's good for the world if we get rid of them. So I'm for the United States of America getting rid of them, even if it's Trump, who may get great credit for it. Or on the other hand, if it doesn't go well, he's going to really wear the collar for this.
He will. Why don't we take out Putin now? If
You know
because
why we
don't you
don't?
think?
He's got an
No.
atomic bomb. That's why we don't take him out.
So, but it's okay then if a guy has an atomic bomb who funds terrorism across the country. We just take the easy targets out. That's our country,
Well,
a great America.
do you want us to get into an atomic war with Russia?
I don't want us to get in any war. I don't
Okay.
think there was another way to, I think there was a different way to deal with Iran. And we've done it so many times. You know, the history, I've talked to you about the history of Iran.
Yes.
We did this in 1953. We took out the prime minister who was democratically elected in Iran, and we put a guy in who was our guy, which looks like we're going to do it all over again. And the Shah of Iran became one of the worst tyrants in the Middle East through his secret police, the Savak, which killed 1 million people in Iran. They killed 1 million, and we sat
The
back and
Ayatollah and his
supported them.
people killed 30 million of their own people.
Exactly. Yes. So that's my point. We put in a tyrant who murdered people that created another tyrant that murdered people. And now we're going to murder more people in Iran. And all we're doing is creating a cycle that just gets worse. I'm worried that at some point this is going to come back to hurt us because the most important thing about Trump, he doesn't have a plan. He shoots from his hip. He has no strategy, no plan. He just does it. And then he wonders why things are weird. I'm worried about what's happening in this
I can
country.
understand you being worried about it. I'm worried about it too, but I think it was worth the gamble to get rid of the Ayatollah, 40 of his top leaders, but we must prosecute this war to a conclusion where there are new people running Iran, people who are interested in making the Iranian citizens free people, okay? I hope and pray that they can be friendly with the United States of America. But if they're not, as long as they're not against us, as long as they don't sponsor terrorism around the world, I'll be happy with the situation.
And where has that ever happened? Where has that strategy ever worked in this world?
Bosnia
Didn't
and
work.
Herzegovina.
Oh, there's still violence taking place over there. That was brought in by Clinton, who went in and worked it out. And we got to give Clinton credit for that, correct? That's the one area where they divided the land and everybody finally agreed. And it has but they still don't recognize each other. It's still a powder keg, but not Iraq.
And he didn't get permission from Congress to do that either. You
Yeah,
realize
that's correct.
he's
Well, I'm not
stationed
the one. I'm not.
15,000 American troops on the border there. And if those two didn't get together, we were going in and put them together.
Well, listen, the hypocrisy is what I criticize, not whether a president has the power to do it. When Clinton did it, the Republicans were up in arms,
Absolutely.
screaming about him, saying that you must come to Congress. Now that things are reversed, it's the Democrats that are screaming up in arms, you must come to Congress. So there's a hypocrisy there.
No
That
question about it.
bothers me. That bothers me, Bill, because we are a constitutional nation that respects the rule of law. That's what we say. And sometimes we don't respect the rule of law.
But
You
we're
know,
not.
we make exceptions for ourselves.
Who doesn't?
Well, but see, that's the point. I thought we were better than these other countries. So, in other words, we're just like everybody else. Who
No,
doesn't?
no, no, no. There's nobody else trying to get rid of a terrible guy like the Ayatollah except the United States of America.
I
But Ray,
don't agree with that, but go ahead.
okay, it's okay. Uh, we've been we've been around and around here. I'm not convincing you. You're not
No,
convincing
no,
me.
no. But I
Let the
think that
American people decide.
well, listen, I think I'm not, this is not a criticism of your view. I think we're
And I'm not
presenting
criticizing
all
your
the
view.
dynamics so the
I mean,
listeners can figure out what the
your
issues
view
are.
is probably 65 to 70% of what the American people believe at the present time. Okay. And the longer this war goes, there's going to be more and more people agree with your particular position. So I'm not criticizing you. You have a right to your position. These people have a right to their position. Unfortunately, the dislike of Trump, I think, oftentimes colors the picture so much that no matter what he does, people cannot say, he's doing the right thing.
I disagree with that. I think that the dislike of Trump is fueled by Trump.
Oh, yes.
And
Okay.
the dislike is based on actual actions he has taken. He is a convicted felon. He was convicted of 30, I mean, it's true. He was convicted of 34 felonies. Now, it was pushed aside because he was elected president. Okay, I've never heard of that. But there are issues that we can't just turn our back on and say, I wish they never happened. Let's give this guy a chance. I think he is the problem for our country. But you're right that we've kind of talked this Iran issue out. There are a couple other issues we could talk about, the polling and the Americans that are overseas. Why don't we take a break and come back and talk about those issues? What do you think?
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back right after these messages. And welcome back to Two Guys on Politics. Bill and I beat the heck out of that war in Iran. It's important, so it deserved the focus. And I thought we both brought different perspectives that will help the listeners understand what's going on, or at least open their minds to some different ideas. But right now, I think that let's talk about the polling. So, how many Americans actually support the war? So the CNN and a group called SSRS, which is this professional polling organization, they did a poll. It was before Americans were reported killed, so it's not an emotional thing. It was about the war, done after the war started on Saturday, and before it was announced that 6 Americans have been killed. And the polling says that where is it? That 60% of Americans oppose the conflict and the intervention in Iran. And they say that they expect this to be a long-term military conflict between the two nations, and it's not going to benefit the U.S. In other words, they're worried, it seems, about what benefit do they get? Is it going to make us safer, or is this just poking the hornet's nest, and is it going to make us more dangerous? And then 40% said that Trump didn't try hard enough to achieve a diplomatic solution. And they were disappointed that they didn't understand how he had destroyed the nuclear weapons, a majority. And I think that's the big factor here. Americans were under the impression that he destroyed the nukes, and now suddenly they're a threat again. So it's caused him some problems, I think, in terms of public, perception, which I think we could talk about. It'll have an impact on his whether he can save the Republican Party or the Trump Party, going into the November elections. So I don't know. Do you get the sense that, I mean, when you talk to people, I know that they may feel, yeah, we should have done something, but do you think people feel that it's being done right, that we're
No,
doing
absolutely
this?
not. No, the people
That's
I've spoken to are not happy with the way it was done. Most of the people are unhappy that it was done at all. Most of the people think that it's going to make conditions worse around the world. And I will agree with all of that unless we prosecute the war to the end. If we get rid of the Ayatollahs and we get rid of all the Revolutionary Guard people and we install a government there that is at least not hostile towards us, but is very helpful to its own people, it will be a success. But whether or not we have the courage to stick it out, I don't know. We haven't had the courage to stick it out any place other than Bosnia-Herzegovina, and that was really in Europe and not in the Mid East. But no, I understand where the people are. I just believe that government was so bad. It's worth the gamble if we can get rid of it once and for all.
Yeah, and obviously, we've talked about this. I don't think we can get rid of it because this wasn't a strategic decision. If it were a strategic decision, I would agree with you. If they planned this out and had a long-term plan for how they were going to take over Iran and, encourage democracy there. We've never really encouraged democracy any place in any of these countries that we've attacked. All of them have done, they've gone the opposite direction. So I think it was the lack of planning that has hurt us more than anything, and they shoot from the hip.
Well,
And
the way we've talked about Iran for years and years and years, you would think that they had an excellent plan someplace by some administration, whether it's Joe Biden or Barack Obama or going back to the what do you call it, the father and son, George Bush and
the Bushes, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for years and years. There should be a perfect plan on how to get rid of the Ayatollah, all his supporters, institute a better government for the people, in not only for Iran, but for the rest of the world. If we don't have it, it's a terrible mistake. I'm hoping we have a plan.
Yeah, I'm not sure myself. So I think that's a big question that the public that's driving these polling results. I'm not sure the public sees it, and maybe that's a big problem for Trump. Maybe Trump needs to do more to explain, what are you doing? What are we doing?
Well,
So maybe
I believe Americans still believe that we sit over here between the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. So we're protected from all that stuff that goes on in the Mideast, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, okay? Well, we're not really anymore. There's something called intercontinental ballistic missile, okay? That can hit any place in this country from Russia or from China or maybe even North Korea, although I don't think that their weaponry is quite that sophisticated. We didn't want to give another country the opportunity to do the same thing, okay? But I don't think Americans comprehend that. They still think that the oceans protect us. Well, the oceans protected us in the Second World War, okay? But that was a long time ago. Things have changed drastically since that time. And I wish the American people would realize it so they could make a better informed, intelligent decision whether they support some of our action, whether they don't support the action. I readily concede the American people are not behind this effort that we're putting forth at the present time. They will be if we achieve the total goal we want, but whether or not we will, that will depend upon the Trump administration and what kind of courage they have. Now, have there been any polls done after the Americans have been killed?
No, I haven't seen any, but I'm sure that there are going to be some. Obviously, that we don't want to see any Americans killed, but it comes down to who do you blame for that? Not just the enemy. People who may feel that this war was unjustified are going to blame Trump. People who believe it's justified are going to blame the enemy. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see how that pans out in the
Well,
election.
I saw one poll since the Americans have been killed, and that poll was 71% of the American people oppose what we're doing over there.
Yeah,
so it has already grown from the
the
results.
69%, right? Yeah, that I saw before the killings. One other factor, by the way, and maybe then we can move on, is this the role of the media. One of the big problems we have that we had 20, 30 years ago, or even before that, the media would always keep government honest. They were critical of government, and government officials were worried about what the media would say. So they always watched their step. It was like walking on ice. You pay attention to where you're walking, you do the right thing, you stay up, you do whatever you have to do. Nowadays, I don't think now it's like a war with the media. And some media are either pro-Trump and some media are anti-Trump. I don't think that we've lost that checks and balance that have been on elected officials. They don't worry about the media anymore. Now they decide which media do we want to go to, the one that supports us, and how do we respond to the media that doesn't like us. So I think that's been a big problem. I think Americans as a public are a little confused about what the facts are because they're hearing this political spin from both sides, the left and the right. And certainly I don't have much respect for the Democrats, and maybe we both feel the same way about that. But I think the media's role has helped bring us to this point of uncertainty, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree with that. But I think the vast majority of the media is opposed to Trump. And no matter what he does, they're not going to give him any good credit for it. Now, that's my perspective in regards to this particular situation. I may be right, I may be wrong. That's how I feel about it. But the vast majority of Americans, I don't think feel that way. I think they feel that the negative stuff that is put forth by the TV networks is justified because of Trump's ridiculous personality. Okay. So it's tough.
Yeah. So let's shift over to how it's impacting the elections coming up. This is a critical year. You would think a smart president, in my opinion, would say we have to develop a strategy to win the support of the American people so we can preserve our majority in Congress and the Senate. And up until now, Trump has had a razor-thin control of the Senate through the Republican Party and a razor-thin control of the House through the Republican Party. I think only one Democrat really kind of flipped over, and that Fetterman is the guy who voted with Trump on one of these bills.
Senator from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure how long he's going to stay with the Republican Party, but it'd be interesting. But how does this look like it's going to impact the midterm elections? Does it hurt or help them?
Well, prior to the war, I felt that the Democrats would capture the House, which I was very happy about because I think we need a block on what Trump does. The closer we came to the war, not being connected with it, but just the closer we came to what happened when we went after the Ayatollah, it seemed to me that the Democrats even had a shot at capturing the Senate, because it seemed to me that a number of people that they nominated to run for the Senate are much more middle of the road than they've been having in the past. Certainly the guy in Texas was middle of the road. He actually talks about God and country. He sounds sometimes like a Republican. Now, there are many things that he supports on the Democratic side, and he is a Democrat. He was running against a member of the squad. He
Right,
defeated he defeated her by about 5 or 6 points, which I
right.
think is very good.
In their
If
Democratic primary, right,
in the
in
Democratic Party,
Texas.
if the Democrats continue to put forth candidates such as that, and the war doesn't go well, I think that they can capture the House, the Senate by large margins, margins that they might actually be able to pass things over the veto of the president. Now, I'm not so sure I want to see that happen either, because I believe in divided government. When we have divided government, that's what's best for the American people. But if this war doesn't go well, then I think that the Republicans are going to get wiped out in the House, in the Senate, and the Democrats will control both of those. We will have total gridlock from then until the end of Trump's term.
Yeah, and I was looking at that race in Texas because I agree it's kind of like a barometer for what we might be
Yes.
seeing across the country. The centrist Democrat was James Tellerico. He's a young guy. He's only 36. He's a Presbyterian seminarian who emphasized, and I'm just reading some of the info about him, his Christian faith, and he preaches a political gospel of bridging divides, bringing people together. That's a great message. He ran against a woman named Jasmine Crockett, who's 44 years old. She has been, both have been critical of Trump, her more louder. She is a member of the far left, or at least has been pinned that way. I don't know if she's a member of the squad, but
Yes,
a
she is a
lot of
member of the
times
squad.
she is. So yeah, I think that she's joined that group on the far left against Trump. Um, but I think what's interesting about Tellerico is this his religious injecting religion into his election may be the foundation to appeal to these right-wing Republicans in Texas who normally would vote for Trump, who might be concerned that maybe he's not doing for them what they expected him to do. So I wonder if that's a factor, his religious belief, if that's an appeal to the conservatives, in some of these states where Republicans have dominated, but it looks like they're very weak and they're becoming even more weaker.
Yes, I think that, I think it very well could be that way. Uh, I guess I'm hoping that it will be that way because, as I say, I believe in divided government. I want to talk about the Republican primary, though. It will be very interesting to me to see who Trump winds up supporting. Does he support the incumbent congressman,
Right,
incumbent senator, or is he going to
right.
go with the attorney general, who has been much more of a Trumper than the senator has been? Uh, but he's also, I think that if you wind up with Tallarico and the attorney general from the Republican side, I think that Democrats, for the first time in over 30 years, may be able to capture the Senate seat in Texas.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. And I was reading analysis that says that this Iran war is actually playing into it. Republicans traditionally are supporting and cheering the president's invasion of Iran. Democrats are critical of it. And I think we saw that play out between us, the conservative and, views on what's going on with that war. But I think this war is going to hurt Trump, and I think some of the little things that, like, we were talking about, why were there so many Americans in this region in the Middle East? There are more than 1 million people, you noted, that are working there, and why? But it seemed to me that people that wanted to get out, when they reached out to the U.S. Embassy and said, "Hey, we need help," the initial embassy message was, "There's nothing we can do for you. You're on your own." And I think the quote was, "If you choose to avail yourself of an option to depart, the U.S. government cannot guarantee your safety." That's not reassuring words to
No,
somebody who's
it is not.
overseas.
Unfortunately, it shows that they were not prepared to do anything for those people who were in the Middle East when a
Yeah, they
war
didn't think
started.
about
They
it.
should have had plans for that.
Yeah, I mean, you should. I mean, why can't we spend money to bring them back? Why? I mean, how much do you think this war is going to cost us in terms of our debt and American taxpayers, because that's another big concern that I think is driving the skepticism of many Americans, that we're paying so much. The economy is being impacted. Gasoline prices, they're fluctuating all over. He keeps trying to say, "Oh, don't worry, gasoline's going to be down to $1.20." I just spent $3.75 for a gallon of gasoline. This week it went up 30 cents as a result of the war. Now, how does he turn and look at the American people and say the economy's better? It doesn't sound better, does it? I don't know. These factors are going to hurt.
But if the American people believe that we won the war in Iran, they'll be happy to accept that victory, and they will say that Trump did the right thing, and they will not have minded paying higher gas tax, higher gas prices for a while, because you know as well as I do, if we do win, that oil price will drop tremendously. And I hope that wasn't one of the reasons we went to war with them.
Yeah, I don't know. I will say that that I think that I'm not confident. I think that's a big if we win the war, and win is that there are different levels of win. We're certainly winning the war by virtue of we're killing people, they're not. But winning the war also means, well, we have a good government there that will work with us and embrace democracy. I don't believe that is ever going to happen. And I think this just makes it even harder to achieve. So,
well, have they ever had a good government there? Have they ever had any form of democracy in that country?
Well, remember, we did talk about it.
I don't think so.
Back they did in the 50s. They had democracy. They had elections. They elected people. And the problem was that the guy that they elected in Iran,
how long did that guy last?
He lasted 2 years. He lasted 2 years.
How long?
He was in power 2 years. And the only reason he got out was he started saying, why are these Western oil companies taking our oil and not giving us our share of the profits? As soon as he said that, the British and the U.S. CIA and the British agency, whatever it's called,
M5,
they went M5, M6, M5, whatever. They went in there and they toppled the guy, and then they installed the Shah of Iran in power, and that started. He was our friend. He supported us. He did what we wanted, but he was very repressive. He was like a dictator and a tyrant. So I think it backfired and angered so many people that they ended up turning to the Ayatollahs. And as we've seen, the Ayatollahs for us are horrible. I'm not sure they're horrible for the majority of people in Iran. I think the people in Iran may hate us, given our past, as much as we might hate the Ayatollahs. So I'm not sure, because we don't get an accurate picture of what's going on over there. So, and then listen, the final thing is, and I don't know about, so overall, it's going to impact the midterm elections, right?
No
you believe that?
about it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. You want to switch over to local elections a little bit and talk about, we have some elections March 17th here in Illinois. You can go and early vote. That started on Monday, and we encourage everybody to go out and vote. Don't sit back and do nothing. Get involved. What are some of the patterns that you're seeing, in the election, Bill?
The biggest thing that I have seen recently is that the surge by the lieutenant governor in the Senate race, Raja, the man who fought and fought and fought and pushed and pushed and pushed, he was way out in front by 35, 40 points for a long time. He never climbed above 36, 37 himself. But now, since the lieutenant governor has gotten all this money from the governor and been on TV day and night for several weeks now, she is really surging. And the latest poll I saw is that she is within 9 points of Raja. Now, wow. I believe that Raja still hangs on to win because of the congresswoman that is in the race also.
Robin Kelly.
about 10, 11% of the vote.
Yeah, and it's too bad though, isn't it, that this is being driven by big money. That because I looked at the three candidates, Robin Kelly seems to have the best record when it comes to addressing local issues in her district, where she represents, where she's a congresswoman. Raja, he had a couple things, but this guy is like he's just superficial in my opinion. And Juliana Stratton, she's getting all this money from Governor J.B. Pritzker, who heads up one of the worst states in the country when it comes to issues like taxes and services to their people. I mean, we're ranked among 49 of 50 in a lot of these categories, and the best we can do on crime is we can get right in the middle. We should be at the top as one of the best states. So I kind of hold him against her because he is backing her. So I'm a little concerned, but you're absolutely right. Money does decide an election, right? I mean, it really comes down to money, and that's kind of sad, I think.
I agree it comes down to money. But I think Stanton has got a good shot. Robin Kelly is not going to win this, but
Right.
Robin Kelly can cost the lieutenant governor the nomination. And I think that is what is going to happen. I think Raja margin is shrinking every day, but I don't think there's enough time left for Stanton to win it unless the Congresswoman gets out. And I don't think she's going to get out, not after going this far. But do you have any idea how much money she has raised in comparison to the other two?
Well, I've seen like Kelly.
Yes.
I think it's like maybe about $2 million, but I think that's Juliana Stratton has raised something like 5 or 8 million, and Raja Krishnamurthy is getting money like crazy, 30 million. I mean, he spent money, but I got to tell you, I have one rule, Bill. If I see a guy or a candidate, a woman or a guy on TV more than 3 times or 5 times in a day, I will not vote for him because that tells me they're about money. They're not about me. And
Right.
all the stuff
I agree with that.
yeah, all the stuff they say, I just don't believe them. They're just mouthing what they've been told to say that their big money tells them to say. So I do go for the little guy. And in this case, I think you're right. It's Robin Kelly. She may siphon votes away from Juliana Stratton. But I'm hopeful that maybe this is going to be a very low voter turnout in spite of all the money that's being spent. So I think that her base may be stronger than these other two. So it depends on how low the voter turnout gets. And they do say it's going to be really low. It's been terrible so far. All right, Bill, any other thoughts at all? Anything we missed? Anything going on?
No, not really. I think that we should look over and see if there's any other races statewide or countywide that we can comment on and have an opinion on for next week's program. I don't really think that the present president of the county board really has any problem getting renominated. And
Tony Preckwinkle.
Yeah,
right.
Even
Brendan,
though, yeah, what is it? Brendan
Riley. Brendan Riley, yeah. He's run a pretty good campaign.
He's run a very good campaign, and he has raised a lot of money. But she is. I don't think she's done a great job. I don't think she's offended people at all.
Right.
And anybody that knows her personally, I think finds her to be a nice, friendly person.
And I should mention that the Lyons mayor, Chris Getty, announced this past week that he's going to run for Congress in Chuy Garcia's district, which I believe is the 4th district, if I got it right. It's hard to keep tabs on all these districts.
It certainly is. I know Chris Getty. I like Chris Getty, but it is extremely difficult to win as an independent running in the congressional race. There's the Democrat, the Republican, and then he's running as an independent. I think there's a couple of other people who are talking about running as independent. Whether or not they can get on the ballot is seriously in question because it takes 1.5 tons of signatures to get on the ballot as an independent.
Yeah, and this is a Hispanic district, and the Hispanic voters have the lowest voter turnout of any group in our state. It's like 22%. And they have it looks like there might be three Hispanics running, and Chris Getty, who obviously is not Hispanic. But I like him. He's a good guy. I've done some work for him, and it seems like he has some good issues. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, whether he can change or break the system, because it is in November where they got to run. So
Yes,
when you run in November, it'll identify each of the candidates. But I think you could sell if you're a Democrat running as an independent, you can clearly in all your publicity and your literature declare yourself a Democrat, that you're fighting for the Democratic Party. All right. Anything else? Any other races, Bill? I think we got it for
no,
now.
I can't think of anything else at the present time. I will just give Chris Getty a little advice. If if he gets on the ballot, uh, I think he should try to work with the Republicans to get the Republican candidate out of the
Oh,
race so that he
yeah.
can pick up Republican votes. I think as
Right.
an independent and getting Republican votes, I think he might be able to win that district, but that's the
All
only
right.
way he's going to do it.
All right. Thank you. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and this is Two Guys on Politics.
We'll see everybody later. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. Bye bye, everybody.